Wow. I thought Kamala Harris would hold on to the title of most embarrassing moment on television for the weekend for at least 48 hours. I know there are a lot of huge embarrassing failures on TV. I know Bomani Jones comes on Friday nights. Maybe 48 hours, maybe that expectation was too long in this era of failures. Our lovely vice president, she should have been given the opportunity to bask in the glory of her embarrassing moment for 24 hours, right? Kamala Harris, she was not even given a full 12 hours before another birthing person went on live television and stole her moment of embarrassment. If she continues down this path over the next few months, we might have our newest contender for the Hef Awards, Alyssa Farah Griffin. Casey, who in the hell is that? AFG is a proud member of Club Yenta. She pollutes the air with toxic mouth farts every weekday morning on The View. The other morning, she was actually the victim of actual flatulence. The whoopee cushion had a little accident live on the air, a little boo-boo. Toxic air was accidentally released from the whoopee, causing an earth-shattering noise to be heard from the television viewing audience while burning the nose hairs of the other Yentas on set of The View. I am not making that story up either. Go read about it yourself. But yesterday, Alyssa Farah Griffin, she was invited by the trio of failures to join them on the set of the disaster known as CNN This Morning. The two Dons, they showed up to work yesterday morning. Donnie Lemon and Don Collins. I didn't see the Poppy in this segment. Now, my sources tell me Poppy, she is still going through grief counseling weeks after Don Lemon informed her that she was well past her prime. Both Don Collins and AFG, they are in their 30s, which means, according to Don Lemon, they still have a few prime years left. Alyssa Farah Griffin, she is a former staffer in the Trump White House. She was the director of strategic communications and the assistant to the president. Now, when you hear that AFG used to work for Donald Trump, I'm sure most would assume she has some common sense. You would assume AFG has more in common with Donnie T than AOC. But if so, you would assume wrong. AFG, she is the worst kind of member of Woke United Methodist. People like Joy Reid or Jamel Hill, while I might not agree with them, I can at least respect the fact that they don't pretend to be a normal person. They are front and center with their beliefs in all of the great myths: mythical racism, mythical misogyny, the changing of the seasons, better known as climate change. In political terms, the wig and the odor, they proudly flaunt the D by their name, the letter that used to represent Democrats but now represents dumbasses. But AFG is different. She is a proud identifier behind closed doors. In public, she flaunts the Republican logo, but her beliefs are more aligned with the teachings at Woke United Methodist. Yesterday morning on CNN, the two Dons and Alyssa Griffin, they were discussing the war on the woke faith. Several months ago, Governor Ron DeSantis, he officially declared war on the wanker spankers in the state of Florida. I remember seeing something the other day where, if I'm remembering this correctly, 18 other states have joined Ron DeSantis in this war against the woke fungus. Now, obviously, this has created an intense level of fear amongst deacons at Woke United Methodist. They understand that the biggest threat against their movement is the truth. They need soldiers, preferably attractive soldiers, to effectively brainwash the country. Joy Reid and Jamel Hill, they don't meet the standard. Neither does someone like Keith Olbermann. Keith Olbermann, he failed to attract the shovel to a pile of dirt. Now, typically, the deacons employ some of the most unattractive people imaginable to spread their message, but they tried a different approach yesterday on CNN. I am sure male identifiers find the Lemon attractive, Caitlin Collins, Alyssa Griffin, beautiful young women, until they open their mouths and the toxic flatulence is released. Donnie Lemon started the segment by asking an important question. What exactly does it mean to be woke? They showed a clip of some conservative author or some conservative pundit struggling to answer this question. Fortunately, I don't struggle with this answer. If Donnie was struggling to define woke, all he had to do was ask me. So what does it mean to be woke? Well, It means you believe in systemic racism. You believe America is guilty of white privilege, even though this country has created more black millionaires than any other country in the world. You believe in brainwashing children. You think men can get pregnant. You believe it's natural for 13-year-old Sheldon to dream of becoming Shelley. You want doctors to assist Sheldon through this transition without the consent of his parents. Do I need to keep going? I thought this was a simple concept to grasp. I guess I was wrong. The reason CNN had Alyssa Griffin do this particular segment, they are trying to normalize wokeness. When most people hear the term woke, they assume the belief system is specific to the Democratic Party. With Alyssa Griffin identifying as a Republican, the message that CNN is trying to send is, Republicans like tag teaming the woke cucumber too. It's kind of like the white guy that's publicly accused of racism. Then he tries to defend himself by saying, I have black friends. Donnie asked AFG to explain to his small audience what it means for a Republican woman to define woke. Alyssa Griffin, she earned her woke welfare by accusing normal people of labeling everything as woke. Watch for yourself.
So woke it's kind of become, remember that the dress where it's like you either saw it in blue or white? Mm-hmm. It means something to certain people. There's a Merriam-Webster's definition of it, which is being in touch with.
And, right there.
Yes, yeah. Exactly. And caring about social justice causes and actively involved in them. But to the other half of the country, let's call it that, it means something completely different. I do see why it has been a valuable and energizing rallying cry for the conservative base, because I think how it's generally interpreted is to mean, you know, it's more of a fear of cancel culture. I would say that's how a lot of, I think, conservatives see it, is if I say something that's even slightly off, the woke mob is going to come and get me. However, it's now turned into something where everything's woke. Banks are woke. ESG's woke.
Banks are woke. ESG is woke. If you listen to these normal peasants, everything is woke. Yeah? That's not hyperbole. It's the truth. A lot of these banks are woke. I am sure you guys have heard about Silicon Valley Bank. Most banks have a chief risk officer on staff. Now, this person's responsible for analyzing the risk of loans. You want to minimize the risk of default so the bank doesn't lose money. It's kind of common sense. Now, according to Fox Business, SVB, Silicon Valley Bank, they did not have a chief risk officer on staff, but that's okay. That's okay. Instead of a CRO, they hired a DEI, someone responsible for diversity, equity, and inclusion. Perhaps this person analyzed businesses wanting loans based on their ESG score. This company wants to borrow $100 million. They're on the brink of bankruptcy, but that's okay. They have a black CEO, a non-binary CFO, and a president who identifies as an emotional support shovel. Their loan is approved. How did that approach work for Silicon Valley Bank? I'll give you a hint. It didn't. But that wasn't even the best part. I saved the best for last. At one point, Caitlin Collins spoke up and injected her thoughts into the discussion. Once she realized no one gave a fuck about her opinion, she allowed the two experts in woke to continue. Donnie and AFG, they closed the segment by stealing the spotlight from Kamala Harris for most embarrassing moment of the weekend. I don't know who should be more embarrassed here, Donnie or the AOC wannabe. The lemon starts by announcing the newest addition to the woke commandments. You are no longer allowed to describe someone as being woke. You must now use the term awakened or birthing person or someone who dreams of Rachel Levine without the bikini. Immediately after this announcement, Alyssa Griffin, she made an embarrassing prediction. Matter of fact, this should automatically qualify her for the Huge Embarrassing Failure Awards. Watch it for yourself.
It is not about defining people for a characteristic. It is about being aware. It is about being aware of issues that have to do with minorities, the structure of the country, issues that have to do with women, issues that have to do with any marginalized community. That's what it is, not defining people. It's being aware of the structural injustices in our society and trying to be better, not trying to cancel people. So I think that he's wrong on that. And I always tell my friends who, use woke, I'm like, don't use that word. It's like, there are certain words that It's not a good look.
Well, and if I can be honest, as a Republican voter and a base voter, I don't actually care a ton about this issue.
Polling well, right?
But I do see why it polls well.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to last.
You don't?
It works in a Republican primary, but then we're going to have the nature of our country is something is going to happen that requires you to care and be attentive to social injustices. And then suddenly it's once again going to be in vogue to be woke.
You know, I mean, CNN President Chris Light, he said he wanted to bring comedy to CNN. I thought he wanted comedy in prime time, but clearly he brought the comedic element to morning television. Alyssa Griffin, she is the best woke comedian in the country. Comedy Central should beg her to host The Daily Show of Failure. Those jokes were absolutely brilliant. It's going to be in vogue to be woke. In vogue? Did we just rewind back to 1990? Who in the hell uses the term vogue anymore? This segment showed how out of touch the mainstream media is with normal people. To steal AFG's terminology, it has never been vogue to be woke. Us normal people, we look at you like you're a disgusting fungus. Remember the other day when Giant Gonzalez was on that flight trying to get away from Desmond Howard? You guys remember that? He could smell the odor of the fungus and could not get away from Desmond Howard quick enough. Alyssa Griffin, she was partially right though. You're not going to win a presidential election if your campaign only focuses on the wanker spankers, but the opposite is also true. You're not going to win if your only focus is on social injustices because it ain't real. What social injustices? That segment on CNN lasted 6 minutes. Not one time did they mention one social injustice. Not once. You want to know why? It's a myth. I'm actually a little bit disappointed in Don Lemon, and I know I shouldn't be disappointed. I realize Donnie is weak. I know his lemons aren't strong enough to stand against the pressure, but over the last several months, we saw glimpses of Don Lemon starting to talk common sense. He argued against equal pay in women's sports. He spoke the truth about prime years. He chastised Caitlin Collins for constantly interrupting him on the air. Now, I know I'm foolish for thinking this, but once Woke United Methodist turned against Don Lemon, I thought maybe he would wake up and realize these people don't give a shit about him. Clearly, that is not the case. I guess that sensitivity training worked because Don Lemon is back to letting these woke women push him around. But give me your thoughts. Don Lemon announces that it is no longer acceptable to use the term woke. The Yenta from The View... Alyssa Griffin is a prime example of how a beautiful woman can talk herself into being unattractive. Do you agree with her, though? Will it be in vogue to be woke? I didn't think it was ever acceptable to be woke, but you let me know. Sound off in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys tomorrow.